You're listening to The Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world, this is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news, honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We de-propagandize the mainstream media. We also make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is just opinion. My opinion, your opinion. They're either valueless or valuable, depending on your point of view. So let's share those points of view. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. The Wells Report in progress for this Wednesday, August 7th, year of our Lord, 2024. Well, there was, I don't know if you noticed, it was in all the papers, but Tim Walz was picked, as I choke on my own spit, Tim Walz was picked as VP Kamala Harris's running mate. And they got together in Philly, and they spent some time talking about what they want to do. And here was some of the reporting from it as we turn to CBS for this particular look at this particular rally here on the Wells Report.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz made a big debut as running mate to Vice President Kamala Harris in front of a very energized crowd in Philadelphia. Nancy Cordes was there. She joins us now. Nancy, you're in the room where it happened. What was it like? Because I'm telling you, just watching on the TV screen, people said it jumped off the screens.
It was electric inside the arena too, Gail. 10,000 screaming supporters, thousands more who were waiting outside but couldn't get in. A vice president and a running mate lavishing praise on one another, genuinely seemed to like each other as the Democratic establishment cheered this pick from coast to coast. And the Harris campaign insists that the grassroots is so excited that they were able to raise more than $20 million yesterday alone.
Tim Walz will be ready on day one.
Vice President Harris hailed her new running mate as a veteran, 6-term congressman and 2-term governor, who is prepared to take on their rivals.
Tim and I have a message for Trump and others who want to turn back the clock on our fundamental freedoms. We're not going back.
The Harris campaign says Walz beat out 8 others for the job. Harris offered it to him Tuesday morning as campaign cameras rolled.
Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on the road?
I would be honored, Madam Vice President.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country, the enthusiasm that's out there, it'll be a privilege to take this with you across the country.
Sources close to the campaign say it was Walz's leadership experience, his rapport with Harris, and his communication skills that earned him the spot.
Make no mistake, violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
It was Walz who first dubbed the Republican nominees weird 2 weeks ago. It caught fire with Democrats, so he brought it back last night.
These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see. That's what you see.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, who was a VP finalist himself, called Walz a great choice.
Tim Walz is a great man. Tim Walz is an outstanding governor.
Former President Donald Trump called Harris and Walz the most radical left duo in American history. The race is on for both sides to define themselves and each other in what feels like a brand new race.
So that's CBS's coverage of the rally last night. And from what I understand, it was reasonably good. There are a couple of other things that need to be talked about here, and that has to do with the past, and it is somewhat notorious, the past of Tim Walz. Tim Walz has some interesting baggage. A lot of people have compared him to Bernie Sanders in a hunting suit. There are 5 controversies surrounding vice presidential nominee Tim Walz. This came out yesterday on Fox News. Now, you got to keep something in mind here. This is indeed biased coverage. Okay, this is biased from Fox News, so you need to be aware of that. Vice President Kamala Harris selected a Midwestern governor, Army veteran, and former football coach and teacher Tim Walz to be her 2024 running mate. He's 60, a veteran politician who served in the U.S. Congress from 2007 to 2018 when he was elected governor of Minnesota, defeating Republican Jeff Johnson. He was reelected to a second term in 2022, fending off a challenge from Republican Scott Jensen. Progressives have praised Walz's strong support for unions and record of accomplishments as governor, which includes codifying abortion rights to the state constitution, enacting universal free school breakfast and lunch for students, regardless of income, and making Minnesota a refuge for children seeking transgender medical procedures. So here are a few of the problems that he has. He has a 1995 DUI arrest. In past campaigns, he sought to downplay the arrest for drunk driving in the mid-90s, but questions about his run-in with law enforcement continue to dog him. A 2022 report by Alpha News unearthed court records that cast doubt on the version of the story Walz has told on the campaign trail. September 23rd, 1995. He was working as a teacher in his home state of Nebraska. He was pulled over for going 96 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. In comments to reporters, the 26 campaign for Congress in the 1st District of Minnesota insisted he was not drunk and blamed a misunderstanding with police on Walz's deafness, which the governor, then campaign manager, had since been surgically corrected. However, the state trooper's report contradicts those claims. A strong odor of alcoholic beverage was detected emitting from Mr. Walz's breath and person. The trooper indicated that Walz submitted to and failed both a field sobriety test and a preliminary breath test. Apparently, he blew over 1 point something, and that was that. Then there is this. So the DUI arrest, Black Lives Matter riots. Walz critics says his handling of Minneapolis riots after the 2020 killing of George Floyd was a failure and a low point in his first term as governor. He's been a disaster for Minnesota and is by far the most partisan governor I can remember having. This, according to the Minnesota GOP chairman, David Hahn. Walz deployed going back to 2020, certainly he did nothing to try to stop the riots going on in Minneapolis. I think he was fearful of alienating his progressive base. Indeed, he delayed sending out the National Guard. Walz deployed the National Guard to stop the violence, which included the torching of a police station, but GOP lawmakers said both the governor and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey were slow to act. All right, that's going to be a problem also when you start thinking about this Black Lives Matter riots. In his statement at the rally, he said that crime was up under President Donald Trump. Crime was up because of the BLM riots. Who incited the BLM riots? That's something to keep in mind. COVID-19 lockdowns. In his first term as governor, Walz oversaw Minnesota's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Like other Democrat leaders, he favored heavy-handed pandemic restrictions. That's the bias on Fox News I'm talking about. Heavy-handed is a qualifier. So they should have written he favored pandemic restrictions, including lockdowns and mask mandates. The Upper Midwest Law Center unsuccessfully challenged Walz's 2020 indoor mask mandate on constitutional grounds. An appellate court sided with Walz. Pandemic relief fraud investigation is another problem. In addition to complaints over Walz pandemic-era restrictions, Republicans have blamed the governor for lax oversight of pandemic programs that cost millions of taxpayer dollars. Federal prosecutors charged 70 people with defrauding federal food programs that funded meals for kids during the pandemic out of $250 million on Walz's watch. Known as the Feeding Our Future scandal, it's one of the country's largest pandemic aid fraud cases. The Office of the Legislative Auditor, a nonpartisan watchdog, delivered a scathing report in June that said Walt's Department of Education, quote, failed to act on warning signs, did not effectively exercise its authority, and was ill-prepared to respond. Then there was interference in a police shooting case. Waltz came under fire from Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty during this year for his comments on a police shooting case handled by her office. Moriarty in June dropped the case against Minnesota State Trooper Ryan Lonigan, who was accused in the fatal shooting of black motorist Ricky Cobb II. In a press conference announcing her decision, she made remarks against Waltz, saying that he had been, quote, very active in inserting himself into this case and was conflicted since he controls the Minnesota State Patrol. This, according to Fox 9 Minneapolis. Have you ever seen this governor intervene in any case involving a defendant in his entire tenure? Said Moriarty. Why is it appropriate for a governor who has never picked up the phone to call me, who is not a lawyer, who does not understand the nuances of this case, talk about it publicly? To center Mr. Londrigan, there we go, I got it right, as being a victim in this case. Why has that been appropriate? Why hasn't that been called out? Waltz later told reporters that Moriarty had not dropped the charges against Londrigan. He would have used his executive authority to remove her from the case. So what you have here is you have some interesting points of view regarding Tim Waltz. Now, that is, as I said, a biased report. So where does this go? Where do we go from here? Well, we wait. That's what we wait for. There's going to be a lot of these fragments flying around that I've been referring to, where people say, well, he did this, and well, he did that, and so on and so on. There are going to be a lot of these fragments flying around. But some of them are worthy of consideration. Some of them are not worthy of consideration. Who decides which are worthy and which are not? You. Not me. You. I report the things that I think are important. You decide whether they matter. Now, Tim Waltz is, from what we understand, a very progressive guy. He is indeed of the cloth of Bernie Sanders. And in Democrat circles last time around in the 2020 election, there were a lot of Bernie Sanders voters. It seemed as though that the Democrat Party seemed very interested in what they called feeling the burn, which is very appropriate when you consider socialism's aspects and actual products on any society. But it seemed as though the Democrat voters wanted to turn themselves into social Democrat voters. Are those people still out there, or have they learned anything? We do not know. But if I have to look at this, I'm going to cling to my thought from a couple of weeks ago when I said I thought maybe Pete Buttigieg was going to be the guy because of his progressive stances and his progressive lifestyle. Tim Waltz doesn't have that progressive lifestyle, but he certainly is at least close to a socialist, if not an outright socialist. He did say one man's socialism is another man's neighborliness. What? Really? Yeah, it's out there. And he seems to be doubling down on it. Well, that's socialism. Neighborliness? Really? Yeah, that's not going to work. And so what I'm thinking is that this is the Democrat Party trying to do two things. One, save its real candidates for 2028. Two, allow the progressive movement in the Democrat Party to get their butts kicked so hard that they go back underground for another couple of decades, which is about how often they do this. In 1972, these same people tried to get George McGovern elected, and he was a socialist. And the people of the United States stomped him into the dirt, re-electing Richard Nixon. So, those are the thoughts I have. What are the thoughts that you have? 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172. Lots of things unfurling as we head toward Election Day. Is it now really some 60 days away? Absentee ballots are about to be cast. My goodness gracious, it's getting close. What do you have? Are you exhilarated or are you scared to death? This is the Wells Report. We'll be back with more coming up in just a moment for this Wednesday morning.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 817-379-2172. Let's see, I asked if people are exhilarated or scared to death. Yvonne says both. Scared they're going to cheat on the vote counts again. Gary says, I'm scared of the Democrat cheating machine. It's well-oiled and hitting on all 8. If it's close again, they'll push it over the top like they did in 2020. These are statements that are not going anywhere. These statements not going anywhere. Why? Well, because we didn't investigate the 2020 election. That's why. Why didn't we investigate the 2020 election? Because of politicians. They didn't want to investigate the 2020 election. The Republicans, chief at the head of the list. Why didn't they have a congressional inquiry like they did to Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and the DOJ and blah, 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 blah? Because they don't want to know the answers. Why don't they want to know the answers? Why don't the Republicans want to know about the 2020 election? I'll tell you why. It's because they're losers. That's why. Do they have capacity to lose this election? Sure. Is that something to be frightened of? Well, that's up to you. But all I can tell you is that as we reevaluate the Democrat Party in its new socialist form, we have to reevaluate the Republican Party in its consistently feckless form, don't we? That's what I mean about this broadcast being nonpartisan. It's equally harsh on both parties, and for good reason. I have zero animosity toward Palestinians. I do have huge animosity toward the people who run Palestinians. I have such animosity that I have often said that, and still support, Israel in essentially reducing Gaza to rubble after the October 7th massacre, where Hamas terrorists overflowed Gaza, went into Israel, and killed everything that was moving. So there has been this narrative that says, well, what about the innocent Palestinians? And I pointed out that since Hamas is not actually a government, it is an ideology. Those people who are adherents to that ideology are Hamas terrorists. And people said, John David, what are you thinking, man? There are innocent Palestinians. No, they're not. How do I know? Yesterday, Hamas named Yahya Sinwar, its top official in Gaza, who masterminded the October 7th attacks in Israel, as its new leader in a dramatic sign of power of the Palestinian militant group's hardline wing after his predecessor was killed in a presumed assassination by Israel in Iran. The selection of Sinwar, a secretive figure close to Iran who worked for years to build up Hamas's military strength, was a defiant signal that the group is prepared to keep fighting after 10 months of destruction from Israel's campaign in Gaza after the assassination of Sinwar's predecessor, Ismail Haniyeh. It's also likely to provoke Israel, which has put him on the top of its kill list after the October 7th attack, in which militants killed 1,200 people in southern Israel and took 250 hostages. Some of them remain hostages, if indeed they are alive at all. This is a gigantic screw you by Hamas to Israel. As Hamas is nourished and supported by Palestinians, there can be no innocent Palestinians. The obvious response is to continue the very harsh, very offensive from a military standpoint, attack on Gaza, to indeed level the entire area and start over. You take the guy who massacred 1,200 Jews and make him the leader of your government? Okay, so I'm interested in what the progressive left is going to use as excuses to sort of say, well, Israel's still wrong. Israel's not wrong. Obliteration seems to be what Hamas needs, and indeed what they want. This is the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. I'm John David Wells. Thanks for being with us today as we continue bringing you the news honestly and fairly. Let's see. Looking at the chat room, you can find the chat room, by the way, on various platforms. Please, by all means, do. If you're watching on Rumble, first of all, thank you. I sincerely appreciate your participation. I have to take my phone and go to the Rumble app to be able to see your chats. One person is watching on Rumble. Thank you. No messages yet, but I keep my eyes on those, and you can be a part of this as well. Brad says, can you picture VP Harris with an extended nose and Democrat donkey ears? She already has the teeth. Something like Hee Haw from the 70s. Can't get that image out of my head. You probably ought to try. I mean, come on. I mean, physical characteristics, that's not what we're voting on, even though a lot of people try to do it. Let's see. Eddie says, I'm older than Kamala's VP pick, and I look better. Well, I certainly hope so. I hope so, Eddie, because Tim Walz is not beautiful. Let's see. We absolutely have the wrong administration right now. Horrible timing. Obama is running it. He hates Israel, loves Iran. I never understood why. Let's see. Okay. And so that's where we find ourselves. Now we have to look at a couple of other things. This is fascinating to me. Progressives, in my humble opinion, which is why we're over here, this is news, this is opinion. So the progressives really don't know what they want. They really don't. They're everywhere on their own agenda. At least that's how it appears to me. You decide for yourself. Now, this is a Fox News report, and therefore it's biased. But let me share it with you and consider it, please. Vice President Harris has found herself between a rock and a woke place when it comes to criminal justice. More than 160 criminal justice advocacy groups have sent Harris an open letter urging her to not call former President Trump a criminal and a felon while pressuring her to embrace their progressive agenda. Again, what is their progressive agenda? I mean, they can't just come out, although Tim Walz has. He's honest. He says that socialism, on one hand, is neighborliness to some other people, which is a socialist lie that gets you ensnared in a gigantic mess that eventually destroys itself. However, at least he's honest about it. The progressives can't really just come out and say that kind of stuff, so they have these little clues. At least in my opinion, that's what I think we're seeing here. So they don't want Kamala Harris to call President Trump a felon or a criminal. The former San Francisco district attorney and California state attorney general has repeatedly cast herself as an aggressive prosecutor who knows Trump's type, a reference to his recent felony convictions in New York City. Quote, there will be those who simplify a matchup between you and former President Trump as one being a tough-on-crime prosecutor and a criminal. The letter says, we hope you will resist this language and its framing. It's both harmful to us and harmful to your campaign. I know what you're doing. You're sitting there going, huh? What? Yeah, exactly. Because I'm looking at this, I'm going, seriously? The group praised Harris for criminal justice reform, cautioned her against using language that unfairly, listen, denigrates and stigmatizes those who have been convicted of crimes. Quote, first, we believe you have been and will be a criminal justice reform leader, and also words like criminal and felon paint with a broad brush that stains more than 70 million Americans with criminal records, including the 1 in 3 black men who have felony convictions. Corin Rankin is the vice chair of the California Republican Party. He says this, quote, she's a walking contradiction. She blows with the political wind, so whichever way the wind is shifting, that is the direction she's going to follow, the direction that's going to help her career. That, according to the vice chair of the California Republican Party. And people have characterized her as a chameleon for those kinds of varying stances. How long is it going to be before somebody comes up and remember, you heard this here first. How long is it going to be before we go back to an old hit by a popular group in the 80s, comma chameleon, George Michael, Kamala chameleon, comma chameleon. You remember, you heard it here first. When somebody else comes up with it, you'll know that there are a lot of people watching this broadcast who borrow from it, which I appreciate. I do. But watch this. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there because sooner or later, somebody's going to come up with Kamala chameleon. All right, so let's move forward. The message was signed by more than 160 leaders of groups ranging from the Bail Project to Beauty After Bars, ripped Trump, but encouraged Harris to focus on his track record rather than his new status as a felon. Quote, hold Donald Trump to account for his conduct and for failing to demonstrate remorse. describe the impacts of his actions and policy proposals, but resist this outdated fear-mongering that reinforces the criminalization that locks so many of us out of voting, out of housing, jobs, and freedom. You see, it's not fear-mongering that locks you out of those things. It's your felony convictions that lock you out of those things. The law isn't the problem. Progressives, for whatever reason, see the law and the administration of it as the problem in the United States. Therefore, they cut police funding. They have DAs who refuse to prosecute cases. They believe the problem isn't with the criminals. The problem is with the law. That political perversity is amazing to me. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? So VP Harris is caught, indeed, between a woke and a hard place. Very good writing here from Fox News, even if it is biased. Let's see, what else do they say? The letter highlights the challenges Harris faces while trying to reconcile her tough-on-crime persona with her proclamation that everybody needs to be woke. That's something that we played yesterday with her horse laugh that was embarrassing at best. Now, please keep in mind, she's getting better at that. Now, if she can just get rid of that smug, condescending persona that she uses, then maybe people will take her more seriously. Until she does, not so much. As we talked about, Corin Rankin, the vice chair of the California Republican Party, says that she's a walking contradiction. Rankin said that Harris began her career as a San Francisco district attorney by putting thousands of minorities in jail for low-level marijuana offenses, for which defendants faced $5,000 bonds. Black, brown, Polynesians were disproportionately impacted, said Rankin. Well, maybe it's because they were the ones using marijuana? Once again, it's like, which is wrong, the law or the people who break the law? It's up to you. President Biden's right-hand woman later morphed into a crusader for criminal justice and criminal justice reform after becoming the Golden State's Attorney General. Her office backed Proposition 47, a controversial bill that lessened a slew of felony charges to misdemeanors. Titled the Safe Neighborhoods and School Act by Harris's office, the 2014 law has been blamed for ushering in an era of lawlessness and disorder in California that has yet to subside. Remember, this is Fox News. It is biased. I remember that we would be fighting this, and I felt like we were shouting in the wind back then, said Rankin, but amazing, and imagine how ridiculous we sounded telling people to vote no for safe neighborhoods and schools. It was wild to us. It seemed intentional. There's nothing safe for any neighborhood or school about decriminalizing serious felonies. Rankin said that Harris now faces a dilemma of which of her contradictory personas to embrace, that she won't be able to laugh and giggle her way out of it. Okay, so once again, Rankin says this is the Republican guy in California. You can't trust her. I think the only commitment she's going to make is to herself. Well, okay, that's just an opinion. But yeah, there's a problem here. So once again, when we talked a little bit and we reported stories talking about the chaos in the Democrat Party because they have this progressive wing, and then they have rank and file real Democrats. These two groups, the progressives being far more vocal and far more harsh with their rhetoric, they tend to annihilate. In other words, the two political philosophies do not fit in the same bowl or bucket, and they will annihilate each other. They will drag the entire party down around it. So nobody really has any idea about where Kamala Harris stands, where the party wants to go, what kind of presidency would VP Harris have if she wins, especially with Tim Walz in the mix, who is simply a leftist socialist. So all we can do is get the popcorn out and watch, I guess. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, what are these guys doing? I don't know. By the way, if you have an answer to what are these guys doing, 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Then there's this. It's been more than 2 weeks since Vice President Kamala Harris emerged as the Democrat nominee. During that time, she has not granted any interviews or held press conferences, setting a new precedent for candidates and their access to the press in an unprecedented election cycle. This isn't unprecedented. Joe Biden didn't run for president. He stayed in his basement. Now, that's an oversimplification. It is. It's an oversimplification. He was out at certain times, but nothing like what we saw from his opponents in the 2020 election campaign. It seems like Kamala Harris is following in those footsteps. This is not going to work. Now, she has had difficulty. Famously, we broadcasted here on the Wells Report just trying to explain the economy and inflation's part in this economy. They're not going to be able to run from that. Kamala Harris is not going to be able to explain it. You cannot be pro-economic and anti-energy. You can't. It just doesn't work. Not only does the green energy she works toward, not only does green energy not work, but you're in a position here where the rest of the entire country is running on fossil fuel, or what's called fossil fuels. As we found out, it's certainly not fossil fuel. We've got more oil and natural gas than anybody else in the world. So it's not fossil fuel. Obviously, the process that creates petroleum and natural gas is still working because these oil reserves keep refilling. And when you start making energy expensive, economics rolls downhill, along with the ability for Americans to pay for basic necessities. So you can't be pro-green and anti-petroleum or anti-earth fuels, let's call them that. You can't be anti-earth fuel and still want to explain that your economic policies are going to work when fuel is dictating the actual effect of those economics. This is something I have never understood it. It is common. It is straightforward. When the United States curtails its own oil production and exports, that allows other people to dictate the price of oil. The price of oil then rises. That comes downhill to all of us, and we find ourselves paying $4 a gallon for a gallon of gas. It cost me $100 to fill up my Tahoe. Well, John David, you shouldn't be driving a Tahoe. You should buy a Prius. No, I'm absolutely not going to do it. And I'm certainly not going to buy an electric car because I drive. I live in Texas, okay? I cannot take an electric car from where I live to Houston, Texas, and have power to drive around when I get there. And so that means I have to sit in a Walmart parking lot, and since it's summertime, bake while my car recharges. Well, John David, you can go in there and just hang out at Walmart. I don't want to go into Walmart. I go into Walmart for very selective things. I go into Walmart when I can't go to my first choice, and I try to spend as little time in there as possible because there's weirdness there, to coin a phrase. I'm just saying. So here we are. According to this article, Harris has had a media honeymoon of sorts. It's not going to last. The legacy media has showered her candidacy with glowing coverage, just like they did with an infirm president for the last 3.5 years. And they've been shielding her from comparison of Barack Obama's political rise, reframing her word salads as meme royalty. They're not word salads. I mean, they're not meme royalty. They're embarrassing to me. I better put that over here. They're embarrassing. Come on. Talk about the facts. If you can, but it doesn't seem like you can. And when you do, you're in a situation where the progressives tell you to stop. It's a big mess.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. Good morning, John David Wells, giving you the news honestly and fairly. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. This guy missed out on being Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate. But believe me, you have not seen the last of Josh Shapiro. And the reason you haven't seen the last of Josh Shapiro is when he was one of the opening acts, if you will, when he was doing that Pennsylvania rally, he was, as USA Today writes it, he was energetic, charismatic, and clearly at home. Okay, and he was at the Licoris Center where Harris and Walz were making their first joint campaign appearance. And this is how he came to the stage, and this is how he introduced himself to a national audience. Take a look at this guy. I think you're going to be impressed. Listen.
Thank you. I love you, Philly. And you know what else I love? I love being your governor. Thank you very much. Y'all fill my heart, and I love you so much. And I want you to know, every single day I go to work for you. I put my shoulder to the wheel, and I focus on 3 simple letters in our alphabet, GSD. I focus on getting done for all of you.
Make no mistake, Josh Shapiro is a political superstar. He is. He absolutely is. That's the next Bill Clinton. But he has a problem. And what is that problem? Well, we were just referring to it a moment ago. The problem is the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. The progressive wing of the Democrat Party has a real problem with Josh Shapiro. And it indeed inserted itself and overwhelmed regular Democrats, except for a few. And regular Democrats are not anti-Jewish bigots, and progressives are. That's just the way it is. Shapiro swallowed whatever disappointment he may have felt in losing on the chance to become the vice president running mate. He made himself the rousing hype man for the Democrat presidential nominee and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, whom Harris had asked just hours earlier to join her ticket. This, by the way, is reported by USA Today. For days, it appeared that Shapiro would end up as Kamala Harris's vice presidential running mate. He'd interviewed for the job. His choice came down to him and Walz. Harris's decision to go with Walz stunned many, given Shapiro's credentials. He's a popular governor of a battleground state that could determine the winner of the election. But Shapiro carries baggage, according to USA Today, that would make him a risky choice. And here's the next sentence. Shapiro, who is Jewish, has infuriated the Democrat Party's progressives as well as Arab Americans and Muslims over his support for Israel and its ongoing war in the Gaza Strip. While his positions aren't that different from many other names on Harris's short list, it was Shapiro who frequently faced the toughest scrutiny. Why? He was facing scrutiny from anti-Jewish bigots. And Josh Shapiro is Jewish. This is a sign of plain intellectual bankruptcy on the part of the Democrat Party, and shows again this deep divide in the Democrat Party between rank and file Democrats who easily outnumber progressives and the loudmouth progressives who are simply anti-Jewish bigots. This is awful. I mean, this is awful. This is quite literally, in my humble opinion, a party ender. This kind of garbage has got to stop, especially when you're some sort of political party that rests its entire life on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unless you're Jewish. This kind of stuff is not lost on Americans. Hypocrisy, this hypocrisy especially, is going to do in the Democrat Party. The good news is they'll come back the other side with a much more American approach to what they should be doing politically. They had it once before. The Civil Rights Act, passed by a Democrat president. The entire nation enchanted by a Democrat president in 1960. John Kennedy was his name. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. That's the future of the Democrat Party. This plain anti-Jewish bigotry it is on display for everyone. Cast doubt on all the rest of their so-called ideas about inclusion and tolerance. You can't have inclusion, tolerance, and diversity without loving the Jews, which, by the way, I do. There's exactly one other country on this planet that I would fight for, and that's Israel. Why? Because Israel and the Jews deserve it. They deserve our support. And those people that see something else are, as I said, plainly intellectually bankrupt. This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Speaking of vice presidential candidates, J.D. Vance is stepping forward and inserting himself in the 2024 campaign, and I dare say very well. I'll explain next on the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. On this broadcast, we report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. We point out both. We do make commentary. Commentary is not news. Commentary is opinion. Yours and mine. Let's compare. Let's debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Hang on a second. I am conferring with someone on text, and I just gotta say that, and there you go. So anyway, there are interesting dynamics at play in this election, and we have spent a little bit of time talking about what's going on with the Democrat Party. Well, we are balanced here, so we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the Republican Party and how the Republican Party is indeed positioning itself for the upcoming presidential race. Today, Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance, the senator from Ohio, made a campaign stop at a police station in Shelby Township, Michigan. It's a suburban Detroit community. It's in Macomb County, historically considered to be a bellwether in national elections. President Biden had been struggling in the polls in Michigan, where his support for the Israeli military action in Gaza drew condemnation from many people in communities like Dearborn, the largest city in the country with an Arab American majority population. But with Vice President Harris as candidate for the top office, the Democrat ticket enjoyed a significant comeback in Michigan polling, making swing state voters, or the swing voters in that state, a critical demographic for the Trump-Vance campaign to win over. So just exactly what happened in Shelby Township this morning? Well, take a look at this and tell me whether or not you can see what I saw as I watched J.D. Vance provide a tour de force for his statements.
I believe that there are Iranian-backed militia groups in this country right now because we know thousands of people have come across the U.S. southern border who have ties to terrorism. Well, it's really endangers your country, and I fear we're going to have a very bad headline here and a lot of people who could lose their lives because Kamala Harris refuses to keep terrorists out of our country. It's disgraceful, but it highlights the fact that unless you have a border, there is no peace and there is no security for American citizens, even in a place as far north as Shelby Township, Michigan. Other questions? Yeah.
Detroit Free Press.
Thank you.
When Trump was at the NABJ conference, he was asked whether you'd be ready to assume the presidency on day one. And he responded by talking about how the vice president pick doesn't really impact the election outcome.
Sure.
Was that the response that you were hoping for from the former president?
Well, what the president has said, and I agree with him, is that most people are voting at the top of the ticket. Now, Tim Walz is a crazy radical, of course. He allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis, but most people are going to be voting for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump. I think it was a common sense observation. He said it before I was the pick. He said it after I was the pick, and I think he's absolutely right. Now, I will say that on the vice presidential issue, it's interesting what Tim Walz says about Kamala Harris. Tim Walz is a person, again, who promoted rioters burning down the biggest city in his state. This is a guy who wants to give driver's licenses to illegal aliens. This is a guy who wants to take children away from their parents if those parents don't consent to sex changes for minors, this is a radical human being who comes from the far left wing of the Democrat Party. And what Kamala Harris is telling all of us by selecting Tim Walz is that she bends the knee to the far left of the Democrat Party. She's done it every single time in government. She's done it in who she selected as her VP nominee, and she will do it if the American people give her a promotion to President of the United States. We don't have to guess at what Kamala Harris believes. The fact that she keeps on leaning on the most far left people in the Democrat Party tells us exactly who she is and what she stands for. Sir.
You're giving a policy speech on immigration essentially today. What is the plan from the Trump team to execute this mass deportation? What will that look like in the United States? How will you make that happen?
Well, I think it's very simple, actually. The first thing that you have to do, and the first thing that President Trump will do, is stop the massive inflow of illegal aliens in the first place. You got to stop the bleeding before you can actually fix the problem here. And we still have thousands of people coming across the border illegally every single day. So the first thing you do, you re-implement deportations, you finish construction of the border wall, and you stop proposing mass amnesty for millions of illegal aliens. That solves the majority of the border problem on day one. President Trump already did it, and he will certainly do it again. Now, to your point about what do you do with the people who are already here? I think it's important that we send a message that if you have come to this country illegally, if you plowed into an innocent mom and her daughter and they lost their lives because of your actions, the message from the Trump administration is simple. Pack your bags because in 4 months, you're going home. We do not consent to an invasion of this country for millions of people who shouldn't be here, and we are going to deport people. Now, you start with the people who are most dangerous. You start with the most violent criminals. You make it harder for businesses to hire illegal aliens, and you work your way down from there. And I think that's how you solve the problem of the people who are here. But if you're not willing to tell at least some of the people who are in this country illegally that you have to go back, then you don't have a real border policy. And unfortunately, that's what Kamala Harris has given this country. Sir.
CBS Detroit. Last night, Governor Walz suggested that because of your Ivy League education and your Silicon backing your political career, that you yourself are part of the elite. What are your first impressions of them trying to frame you this way to the American public?
Well, look, I came from a family where nobody in my family had ever gone to law school. I grew up in a poor family. The fact that Tim Walz wants to turn it into a bad thing, that I actually worked myself through college, through law school, and made something myself. To me, that's the American dream. And if Tim Walz wants to insult it, I think that's frankly pretty bizarre. Now, look, what really bothers me about Tim Walz, it's not even the positions that he's taken, though certainly he has been a far left radical. You know what really bothers me about Tim Walz as a Marine who served his country in uniform? When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control. He said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Oh my. Oh my. That's going to stick. That is going to stick, and it should. And this is a problem, because what J.D. Vance was talking about with regard to Tim Walz military service is completely correct. That's a problem. Now, what did you notice? What did you notice that you haven't seen before? That you haven't seen, well, for the last 3.5 years? There was no scripting. There was no note card with the next correspondent to call on. It didn't seem like any of those questions were prearranged. He stood there at that podium and he just took random reporters, apparently, and answered truthfully, fluently. Truthfully, maybe, probably. But that's not what we've seen from the Democrat Party. We haven't seen it when it comes to Kamala Harris not showing up for press conferences, not showing up for interviews. Hasn't done any of that. J.D. Vance, on the other hand, just simply said, hey, you know what? You ask me the questions, I'll answer them. He also is very, very good at telling the media what they really should be doing. He said it right there. He said, you should ask Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, blah, blah, blah. Now, this is something that if the Kamala Harris-Tim Walz campaign can't fix immediately, they have a real problem. Because as long as J.D. Vance, who is absolutely at the top of his political game, can stand there and take questions not scripted, not prearranged, and answer that fluently, then there has to be a response from the Harris-Walz ticket. By the way, they seem to have figured this out. Earlier today, also on Fox and Friends on the Fox News Network, they are covering, by the way, the Sturgis motorcycle rally that happens every year. And indeed, the Fox News correspondents went to Sturgis, but they arranged for people at Sturgis to ask President Trump questions. Check this out.
Out of 8 children that I'm a father and a stepfather to, 5 of them are struggling, and I'm giving them part of my income on a regular basis. How are you going to make the economy, not just the the food and electricity, but bring down the rent prices, the housing prices, so that these kids can survive without their parents' help?
Such a good question, Mr. President.
You're right. I hear it very well. And I tell you, first of all, I love the people that you're with. I know that I must have at least 99, perhaps 100% of all of them. And I think they're incredible. We are going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to bring down the cost of energy. Energy is what caused the worst inflation, I think, in the history of our country. Food prices are up 50%, sometimes more. You look at bacon. Bacon is quadrupled. You can't order bacon. You can't order anything. We're living horribly. We have the worst inflation we've probably ever had in our country, and it started because of energy. We're going to drill, baby, drill, and then we're going to have China and all of these countries that were treating us good when I was there toward that. I mean, it took me a long time to get them to behave properly. All of these countries are going to, again, stop. Like 4 years ago, I could ask you, you were in great shape. You had low energy costs. You had low food costs. Everything was good. You could buy a house. You had low interest rates, 2% interest rates. You had gasoline at $1.87. Now it's $5. And by the way, going up very substantially. But you had gasoline at $1.87 a gallon. Nobody talks about that anymore. Nobody even can believe it's going to happen. It's going to happen again. We've got to get the energy prices down, and everything else is going to be tumbling down with it, the prices.
Yeah. And the president, again, taking a random question from an apparently random person. Now, is that a question that leads directly into Trump campaign talking points? Yes. Yes. Is that a function of somebody at Fox setting up somebody for a softball question? Maybe. But maybe what's going on is President Trump is actually answering questions about what the issues that are on Americans' minds. Once again, I'm not going to say one way or another. What I'm doing is providing facts. This is not a partisan broadcast. But if you look very carefully at these two campaigns, you have soaring rhetoric like, when we fight, we win. Well, what does that mean? The Trump-Vance campaign is talking about the issues plainly, straightforwardly. Have you heard concrete policy answers that didn't involve Donald Trump is bad and we're not? Have you heard any of that from the Harris-Walz campaign? Now, they just got started. They'll probably get to these issues at some point. The question is, will they be able to profit from the answers to those policy questions? More in a moment.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
This is the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. We are fortunate in this nation to have someone named Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a guy who put $44 billion on the table and purchased Twitter, changing it to X, and saying, this is where free speech lives. And this guy is serious about it. $44 billion. He put $44 billion to buy Twitter. And then he got rid of, I would say, most of the censorship that was essentially commonplace when Jack Dorsey ran that platform. He has now filed a lawsuit against OpenAI and its leadership again, this week after withdrawing a previous suit against the artificial intelligence startup he co-founded in 2015. The new suit filed Monday in the U.S. District Court of Northern California, revived Musk's claims from an earlier suit that the company, along with two of its fellow co-founders, current CEO Sam Altman and OpenAI President Greg Brockman, breached its founding mission of developing open source artificial general intelligence technology for humanity's benefit. Musk departed the company's board in 2018 after he felt it had fallen behind Google in the AI race. After Musk lent his name to the venture, invested significant time, tens of millions of dollars in seed capital, and recruited top AI scientists for OpenAI Incorporated, Musk and the nonprofit namesake Objective were betrayed by Altman and his accomplices. That's what the complaint says. Wow. It alleges that once OpenAI's technology started to transform generative artificial intelligence, Altman flipped the narrative and proceeded to cash in. The suit seeks a judicial determination that OpenAI's license to Microsoft to use its AI models is null and void. Musk contends that OpenAI's language models are outside the scope of the company's partnership with Microsoft. And of course, this is kind of in the weeds. But I'm reasonably sure that this comes on the heels of Amit Mehta's decision that Google has established a monopoly when it comes to search on the internet. And that is probably where we find Elon Musk making this move. And believe me, when you have the kind of resources that Elon Musk has, then you can move very, very quickly. And that's what's happening. So I'm not going to get into the weeds on that. I'm just going to move on to another story from Fox Business regarding just exactly what's going on with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. This apparently was a couple of days ago. Donald Trump announced a major interview with Elon Musk, and here's what USA Today wants you to know about it. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump said he's set to sit down with one of his newest supporters, Tesla founder Elon Musk. On Monday night, I'll be doing a major interview with Elon Musk. Details to follow. Musk has not yet commented on the interview on his platform X, formerly known as Twitter. In January of 2021, Trump was banned from Twitter during the final days of his term. Trump's X account was reinstated on the platform the following year once Musk's takeover had been completed. Again, Musk going after free speech. The interview comes as the former president seeks a return to the White House as he runs against Vice President Kamala Harris, who announced Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. Trump participated in a 22-minute interview with video game streamer Aiden Ross. That happened on Monday. During that live stream, Ross offered Trump a Rolex watch and a Cybertruck that was wrapped in a photo taken of him during the July 13th assassination attempt on his life. So, once again, small fragments flying around. What do they mean? Only you know. I'm simply providing the fragments for your consideration. This is the Wells Report. When we talk a little bit about progressives being the tail that wags the Democrat Party dog, then you have to think about what happened yesterday to somebody who was a member of the squad. Note the tense in that statement. We'll have more about that coming up in just a couple of moments. Also, is the FBI finished playing politics? Have they learned their lesson? It doesn't appear so. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue on the Wells Report.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Nobody wants to get ripped off, broken into, or robbed, but nobody wants to pay a lot of money to have their home protected either. I've got an offer to tell you about to provide home security for your home for less than $1 a day. For real, with no installation or equipment charges. And this is from a company rated #1 by a leading consumer research company. According to the facts, most of you won't even call unless there's a burglary in your neighborhood or something bad happened. So let's give you a reason. Save money. For less than $1 a day with no other costs, you can get your home secured. Plus, get a lifetime equipment replacement warranty. You need protection for your home. Call the Home Security Hotline right now.
Get your home secured for less than $1 a day, and every caller today immediately qualifies for free installation. Call now.
Call 877-275-0973. 877-275-0973. That's 877-275-0973.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. And yes, I was late. So there you go. You're saying, my goodness, John David, you're wearing boxing shorts. Not boxers. Boxing shorts. Yes, I am. And do you know why? Well, because I kind of like them, especially after yesterday. I took my first boxing lesson. I have a dear friend who has helped me immeasurably in my life. And I'm just going to tell you who he is. His name is Gary Olivier. And he was a former pro boxing sparring partner. And he knows his way around a boxing gym. And I, having studied martial arts for most of my life, realized that there were some shortcomings in the education that I have that had a lot to do with the kind of situation I'm in my security supervisor job. The stuff that I know, you really can't spend an awful lot of time doing because, well, it's violent. So the people that I deal with don't deserve that level. So you can't really pick when somebody decides to engage with you, but you certainly can pick, how you react. And I needed to tone down a bit. And you're saying, wait a minute, boxing isn't toning down. Well, yeah, it is. In comparison, I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of it. It's just a different way of going about defending yourself. And that's all I do. I don't even know how to start a fight, to be perfectly honest with you. After all the years that I've studied martial arts, I don't know how to start a fight. And I don't think I need to. But I do need to be able to defend myself in a way that doesn't, shall we say, provide an alteration to the unfortunate person who decides to engage with me. So boxing is different. And boy, my shoulders, my chest, and my core are screaming this morning. Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much. We only worked out for an hour. I think I sweated about a gallon. It's like, seriously? So those people who say that boxers are the finest conditioned athletes in the sports realm, they are completely correct. Anyway, Gary, thanks, amigo. I appreciate you helping me out, just like you have ever since I met you. You're an amazing human being. And I'm very, very glad you're my friend. Very glad. All right, personal stuff aside. The 2024 election, the change in American politics. That change was made apparent yesterday when a primary was had in the state of Missouri. Cori Bush is a member of the squad, but she won't be for very much longer. Why? Because she lost her primary campaign to somebody else in Missouri. And there are a lot of things to discuss about this, but here is how CBS News reported it earlier today.
For the second time this year, a member of the Progressive Democratic Congressional Group, known as the Squad, lost a primary election. Missouri Representative Cori Bush was defeated yesterday by St. Louis prosecutor Wesley Bell. It was just one of a handful of primary races across the country that we were watching last night in states including Michigan, Missouri, Kansas, and Washington. CBS News political reporter Hunter Whittle joins us now with more on this story. Hunter, thanks so much for helping us break this down. So this is now the second member of the squad to lose re-election. Explain why.
Good morning. It's good to be with you. This Cori Bush primary for Representative Bush, it was an interesting dynamic because while this obviously mimics the loss that you mentioned for Representative Jamal Bowman in New York a few weeks back, Representative Bush had some other struggles as well. CBS News had reported that she was under investigation by the Department of Justice for potential, misuse of funds for personal security. That was a big factor here potentially. And also, she has obviously voted, against Democrats at key times. I'll also note millions were spent trying to defeat her in this primary by a group linked to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. That's hard to not see as a factor in the loss that we saw last night.
Yeah. And so when you start looking at that, you start looking at this. I have been saying for a very, very long time that Americans, if we need to or want to stay in the United States of America, we need to start voting for other people. And other people could be anyone. I'm not asking Democrats to vote for Republicans. I'm not asking for Republicans to vote for Democrats. I'm asking everyone to vote for somebody else. Wesley Bell is the guy who defeated Cori Bush. Cori Bush, as it said in that report just moments ago, did vote against Democrats. Why? because she's not a Democrat. She's a progressive. She is a progressive, and the progressive wing of the Democrat Party doesn't really know what it wants. They'll take shots at Kamala Harris. They'll take shots at other Democrats. And I don't believe in this particular case that the Democrat Party came out and said, hey, we need to get rid of Cori Bush. No. What happened was the voters of Missouri decided, hey, we need to get rid of Cori Bush. And that's the way this is supposed to work. It heartened me greatly to see Democrats of Missouri pick somebody else, especially in that congressional district. And the reason is because we got the wrong people in power. We know it. We've seen it. And I'm not talking about just Democrats or progressives or Republicans or conservatives. I'm talking about the whole kit and caboodle. There are great people serving in both parties in Washington, D.C. There are. But something tells me that the people of the United States had better send a message to the people that are running this country that we're not happy with it. We're not. Democrats and Republicans alike. We're not happy with this. This is not what we need to do. And I'm not talking about the Biden administration. I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about the entire process. Collectively, the political process in the United States has spent us into a $35 trillion national debt. $35 trillion. How much more productivity would Americans have to provide in order to work ourselves out of that mess? The simple answer is there is no more productivity to be had by the most productive workforce in the history of the human endeavor. So what are you going to do about this $35 trillion debt? Well, what you're going to do, in my view, this is just my personal opinion, you find a resource in the United States that is equal to that particular goal. What riches do we have in the United States, aside from our workforce, that would pay off a $35 trillion government debt? There's only one, and that is oil and natural gas, earth fuels. And that is a very, very potent weapon to be used in the world economic sphere. In 1973, OPEC said, well, we're not going to send oil to the United States. And gasoline went crazy. We had fuel rationing. Remember, I'm old, so you probably didn't see any of that. But the case of the matter is that we were being dictated, our energy needs in this nation, those needs were being dictated by somebody offshore in the form of a group called OPEC. So OPEC pretty much has had its way regarding world oil prices. Well, that's expensive. There's no competition. Everybody was afraid that OPEC, for example, would say, okay, no more oil like they did before. And so they pretty much left OPEC alone, especially when it came to the political process. And that's bipartisan, by the way. Suddenly, Donald Trump appears, and suddenly we become a net exporter of world petroleum and natural gas. What does that do? It takes the control of oil prices for the entire world away from people who exploit it to essentially fleece the United States of America. Because as we put our oil and natural gas on the market, the prices began to fall. And that's how we got $1.87 gasoline. And you're saying, oh, there's that pro-Trump guy. No, I'm not pro-Trump. I'm pro-American and pro-economics. Energy is the key. Energy is the key. And we have a serious political problem. We are not, as we have seen, going to be able to depend on the political process to solve this. You have to go outside the political process. Well, who's outside the political process? Okay, Donald Trump is outside. And he represents a very serious problem for the political effort in the United States. A serious problem. Like I said, this is a bipartisan mess created by Republicans and Democrats because we keep electing Republicans and Democrats instead of fellow Americans. Now, I don't know anything about Wesley Bell. I have no idea where he stands on a lot of different issues. I don't have any idea. All I know is that Wesley Bell represents a difference. We don't have Cori Bush in Washington. Cori Bush is not somebody who is going to do anything about the real problems, the real issues of the United States. No, Cori Bush was somebody like the rest of the squad that exploit Americans and all that we have. And indeed, they would like to essentially control much of what we do for the sake of their own political power. And they don't even know what they want to do. They sort of flit from one topic to another, and all of it, as far as I can see, is un-American, unconstitutional. It's not the way Americans live, and it's not the way Americans will ever live. And yet the Democrat Party, for whatever reason, saw fit to say, well, okay, we can just have this big tent party and let the progressive/socialist virus in. And you can see that it has created quite a mess for the Democrat Party. And what are they going to do about it? Well, I think, as I've said before, I think what they're going to do about it is they're going to decide that they're going to give the progressives everything they wanted. They've got a progressive presidential candidate. They have a very progressive leftist vice presidential candidate. And they're going to say, okay, have at it. And the progressives are in a position where, as we just reported, are saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Ms. Vice President, please do not call Donald Trump a criminal because it hurts the feelings of criminals. Really? Seriously. And so what they're doing is they're backing off because they have become the dog that chases the car. Suddenly they caught the car. Now progressives are in a position where they are going to have to stand for what they believe. They're going to have to define it. They're going to have to stand for it. And they're going to have to convince others of us to support it. Now, once again, I have my thoughts on this. But I'm not going to share them insofar as that's not my job. My job is to frame the debate. Is progressivism in the future of the United States? I don't think so, personally. I'm not going to say why. I'm not going to get into the weeds. But what I am going to say is that the American people now have a choice, a defined choice for the future of this nation. Are we going to go down the progressive, leftist, socialist road with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Or not? Notice I didn't say, or are we going to support Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and... No, I'm saying, what kind of America do you want? What kind of America do you want for your kids? And I got to tell you, your kids are depending on us to come up with the right decision. Because if we don't pay that $35 trillion in national debt, they're going to have to. So we're making a generational decision in this election. I guarantee you there is no progressive answer to a $35 trillion national debt. In fact, the $35 trillion national debt actually acts to benefit a progressive agenda, which means a government takeover of everything. And that is something that we have also reported on this broadcast, where the government wants to get into the mortgage business. Why? Because they want to own all the homes. And the progressive wing of the Democrat Party wants to bankrupt America, and this is something that Vice President Harris has said. They want to withhold national riches from us for the sake of taking money out of our pockets so that we don't have more money to, say, for example, fund candidates that believe differently. That's the way it looks to me. How does it look to you? 817-379-2172. This is the Wells Report. Back with more in a moment.
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
Call 877-512-3895. That's 877-512-3895. 877-512-3895.
Consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Even if you've tried before and were unsuccessful in getting rid of your timeshare, call today and see if we can help. We offer a complete 100% unconditional client satisfaction guarantee. Make this completely free call and learn how we can help you legally put an end to your timeshare nightmare once and for all. You have nothing to lose, so call right now to qualify and receive a free consultation. You can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, but you've got to call now. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
This is the Wells Report. Again, my sincere thanks for being a part of this broadcast. If you find value in it, please by all means subscribe. Send it to all your friends. We got to build this from the ground up. If this broadcast is going to succeed, it's going to be because you tell your friends about it. Ask them to subscribe. Light the notification button, the bell. Make sure you know when we're going to be on the air. And then give us thumbs ups. Those thumbs ups really help. And when you give us those thumbs ups, people notice, and we get more support from our platforms that you are watching this broadcast on. By the way, if you want to support the show financially, you can if you want to. I feel queasy about this, but on the other hand, there is reality. You can go to patreon.com/The Wells Report, subscribe to the broadcast, and throw us a couple of bucks. Just a couple of bucks. Half of a Starbucks. Just give us half a Starbucks a month, and it would really help us out. It has helped this show immeasurably. The FBI decided to start playing politics during the Obama administration, famously so during the run-up to the 2016 presidential election, and then throughout the Trump administration. And you would think after people got fired the reputation of the FBI got sullied, and a lot of people are looking at the FBI trying to figure out just what happened to that amazing organization. Well, you'd think they'd learn to stop playing politics. Perhaps not. Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee announced on social media yesterday his phone was seized by the FBI last week, one day after he won a Republican primary in the volunteer state, Tennessee. Ogles, member of the House Freedom Caucus, shared a statement on X about the investigation, which reportedly involves campaign finance filings. And remember, campaign finance filings was perhaps one of the reasons why Cori Bush lost her seat in Congress. Sources confirmed to Fox News rather, that FBI agents executed a search warrant at the D.C. office of Andy Ogles last week. Quote, "It's been widely reported for months that my campaign made mistakes in our initial financial filings. We have worked diligently with attorneys and reporting experts to correct the errors and ensure compliance going forward. Last Friday, the FBI took possession of my cell phone." Ogles added he believes the phone seizure is related to the campaign filings and vowed to cooperate with authorities. "It's my understanding that they are investigating the same well-known facts surrounding these filings. I, of course, will fully cooperate with them, just as I have with the Federal Election Commission. I'm confident that all involved will conclude the reporting discrepancies were based on honest mistakes and nothing more." Well, that's possible. It's also possible that they weren't honest mistakes. We don't know. Last Thursday, Ogles won a high-profile primary battle against Nashville Metro Council member Courtney Johnston. His supporters included former President Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson, the Republican from Louisiana. And they go on to talk about the political idea regarding Andy Ogles and his policies and so on and so forth. We're not going to bore you with that. A member of the Freedom Caucus. A Republican. And trouble with the FBI and the FEC. This may all be righteous. The congressman says, hey, we made mistakes. Okay. Well, then investigate the mistakes. Investigate the mistakes and pay whatever fines are necessary and then move forward. Okay. I mean, keeping track of cash, especially campaign cash, is an arcane art, better left to complete experts. But then again, as we've seen with the FBI, just exactly what are the agendas of the experts you engage? So what we have here is we have another Republican being chased down. Now, don't forget, Bob Menendez was chased down by the DOJ and by the FBI for what appeared to be bribery, and they nailed him for it. So the question is this, and it has to be asked. Is the FBI playing politics? There are good arguments on either side, but are they playing politics? And will this help them or hurt them when it comes to trying to rehabilitate a badly damaged FBI image? I don't know. I do not know. But I do know that, you got to enforce the law, but you have to enforce it fairly. And there are all kinds of examples of both the DOJ and the FBI doing not that. There is a two-tiered legal system, one for Democrats, one for Republicans, and it's plain. Again, how do you fix it? You vote for somebody else. Does that mean that you should have voted for, say, for example, the other person in the primary when it comes to Andy Ogles? Maybe. But once again, I can't say one way or another. I'm just trying to provide you with facts. And the questions that have to be asked. In a world where federal executive agencies play politics instead of doing their jobs, is this another case? Again, we don't know. I hope the FBI does a fair and honest investigation. I hope that the FEC creates a remedy that fixes everything and that everybody moves forward. I hope so. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I can dream, can't I? This has been the Wells Report for this Wednesday, August 7th, year of our Lord 2024. I want to thank you again for being on this broadcast with me. Thank you for joining us. We'll be again on the air tomorrow. I say on the air, actually on the internet tomorrow, with another edition of this broadcast. More news, more analysis, commentary, and debate on the Wells Report. See you tomorrow. Oh my goodness gracious. That was a good one. I like that show. I hope you like that show too. Did you like that show? Let me get to the chat room. There was a whole bunch of things going on in the chat room that I didn't have a chance to get to. Let's see. Okay, Bush, the three nasties are still Tlaib, Omar, and AOC. Tlaib, by the way, faces a primary next week. We'll see what happens to her. AOC can go back to what she does best. Do you want iced tea with that? Well, she's actually a bartender, so she'd probably say, would you like a Long Island iced tea with that? Let's see. Gary Olivier, my boxing coach, says, yeah, I sparred with some notable people in New York boxing, but I was more a moving target than a sparring partner. He says he's no boxer. I saw him yesterday. He's a boxer. He knows what he's doing. He really does. He says, Gary says, a boxing workout is excellent. It's an excellent all-around workout. I did a little in my 20s to see what it was like. I ain't no boxer. Let's see. Scary, the wrong people in power are voted in. They walk amongst us. That's why I'm a staunch proponent for term limits. Well, we have term limits. We do. They're called elections. And like I keep saying, you simply have to pick different people. We know what the people who are there will do. They're bankrupting our nation. And we need to get other people in there that have a different set of priorities. We do. Let's see what else is going on. Low energy prices translate to the price of everything: manufacturing, transportation. Take petroleum energy and petroleum products. Yeah, the greenies are screwing up the American economy. And they're doing so for political reasons. That's my opinion. That's something. Let's see what else. Watched a podcast last night that also said the Dems are giving the progressives their shot. Yep, that's what's happening. And if indeed they get drubbed in this election, many people say that's going to happen. Maybe this is a way for the Democrat Party to escape those guys and invite them to become a part of the American Socialist Party. Let's see. I think in some way COVID was beneficial. It forced young kids and children to spend time with parents, grandpas, grandmas, and actually get a perspective on reality. Nothing in the universe is without balance. Nothing. COVID was very instructive. We got to see in the United States what happens when the political process begins to abuse the Constitution of the United States. We got to see the mainstream media and government agencies lie to our faces. Was that good? Yeah. Did a lot of people lose their lives? Yeah. Was that good? No. But once again, you got to take care of yourself, and that means health-wise too, and make the decisions that you think you should make. Let's see. Okay, I think that's about it. All right, you guys. Thanks very much for being a part of this broadcast. As I said, I'm going to go on about my day. Got to get my work day started. I've got a day job. I'm a security supervisor, and I'm going to go supervise security until tomorrow. God bless you. Take good care of yourself. Be safe. Make great decisions. See you tomorrow.